Why, hello there. Awesome Soul back again for a very spooky video. Oh, what is this? Yes, more D&D stuff. This is something I posted up on my Patreon a little while ago, I believe 2 weeks ago? On the 15th, I think. So it's been up there for a while. So, if you want to get things like this, then go ahead and check that out. Link in the description. With that out of the way, I will present to you as a special holiday treat, a Halloween gift, if you will, the Shadow Knight Roguish archetype, which is a subclass for the rogue, obviously. So, my design goal with this was a little interesting, I guess. My whole idea here was to make a very off-type rogue, like something that you wouldn't normally see. Like, this is a heavily armored rogue with a high AC and, you know, big beefy armor, martial weapons, the whole 9 yards. Very interesting designing this thing. So I'm just going to quickly run through it all. Again, if you want to actually get the document for yourself, it's over on the Patreon. It's just $1. You get access to all the other subclasses that I have on there, and will continue to post over there. I know, I continue to show the Patreon. I'm sorry. Let's jump into it. So, we're just going to go over the basic ideas of the class here. We're not going to read any of the extra bits. So, at level 3, you're going to get Shadow Knight proficiencies. This is required to become, well, a Shadow Knight. You're going to get medium armor, which is mainly there for flavor reasons. You really only need heavy armor with this kind of subclass. That's ideally what you want to go for. But I only put medium there just because it kind of felt weird. Like, oh, you've got light proficiencies and heavy proficiencies, but not medium. That just felt odd. Anyway, you get shields. So you've got all this armor and now shields, and also martial weapons. So they are now fully kitted out. Again, very off-type for a rogue. And the other thing you're going to grab at level 3 is Shadowy Infusion. Ooh, very spooky. So, you've learnt to harness the shadowy aura, granting you dark vision out to 60 feet. Good old dark vision. Now, of course, if you had dark vision already, you'd just get that extended to 30 feet. Real nice. Now, additionally, you gain a bevy of other perks. So, while you're wearing armor, or wielding a weapon or shield, you automatically infuse them with this shadowy energy, and you get the following. Number 1. Well, I should mention, some of these are more flavorful, others are more mechanically focused. This one, really just a bit more flavorful. If the item is metallic, it gains a dark, shadowy film over it, causing it to become non-reflective. A melee weapon gains the finesse property. This is where your big, juicy power is coming from. You got a warhammer. Because of the shadow magic infused into it, it's a lot lighter and easier to maneuver around. Hence, it's now finesse. That's pretty scary. But it gets scarier. If a set of armor has a strength requirement, you can use your dexterity instead. More so, if it imposes disadvantage on stealth checks, the armor no longer does, meaning you can be kitted out in the best armor and still sneak around. Again, very scary. You can don and doff any armor as an action. This one is admittedly a bit more flavorful because, let's be real, who actually uses the donning and doffing rules when you're taking a long rest? Most people I know just don't even care about that. They're just like, oh yeah, whatever, you're sleeping in your armor, go ahead, and that's fine, whatever, doesn't really matter. I don't know, if you've ever played at a table that actually strictly enforces that, let me know. I'm very curious to see if people actually do that. Anyway, if an item emits light, you can choose for it not to. Now, this is really for magic items specifically, like, I don't know, Sunblade. I'm pretty sure the Sunblade emits light. I don't see why it wouldn't. So, if you've got this magical glowing sword, you can now cover it in shadows, and it no longer emits any light. So you've got a Sunblade that does not emit any light, meaning you can easily sneak up to your targets and stab away with extra power. And this one is flavorful, but also a bit more mechanical. Whenever you deal sneak attack damage, you can choose for it to deal necrotic damage instead. So, quite the layered-filled feature here. But the way rogues work, you've got your third level, and then you wait a very long time until you get your other feature. So I wanted this one to be very multi-level, just to give something that players can kind of chew on. Again, some of them are more powerful, some are more flavorful, but still, you've got a lot to work with there. Moving on. Slayer in Shadow, the 9th level feature. You can attack twice instead of once when you take the attack action on your turn. So, typical extra attack stuff. Rogues don't normally get that. Now, I want to remind you that the way sneak attack is written, it can only apply once per turn. So, this extra attack is not going to be dealing sneak attack twice. Don't worry. Moreover, when you reduce a creature to 0 hit points or land a critical hit, you become wreathed in shadows until the end of your next turn. While covered in these shadows, you appear heavily obscured to others, even if they have dark vision. Ooh, extra spooky. So, what does this mean exactly? Well, you're going to have advantage on attacks because they can't see you, and they have disadvantage on attacks to hit you. So, this means you've got a way to, well, I wouldn't say necessarily reliably, but you've got another tool in your tool belt to help you get your sneak attack damage off. But more importantly, keeping with the idea that this is a more defensive rogue, they are going to have a lot more of a harder time hitting you. So it's sword and shield, in a way, in one ability. Next up, Dark Juggernaut. A faint, shadowy aura constantly protects you. You gain resistance to poison, necrotic, and radiant damage. So, this is almost a way you can sort of think of it as like, instead of getting, the typical melee slashing, piercing, bludgeoning, you've got 3 other ones that are somewhat flavorful, at least when it comes to this whole shadow thing. Like the radiant damage, your shadow blocks out the light. Necrotic, this is sort of like an evil shadowy aura, so you'd be used to that. And poison, well, see the last point. Also, this feature, well, I should clarify. Actually, no. It's fairly self-explanatory, so I'll just read it off. Additionally, your hit point maximum increases by an amount equal to your rogue level. Meaning that at 13th level, you've got a bonus to your max hit points equal to 13. When you reach the next level, that goes up by 1 to a total of 14, and so on and so forth. Again, this is a very tanky defensive rogue, very off-type, like I said before. And then, the Pinnacle, your 17th level feature. Consume the Darkness, very edgy, very spooky, very Halloween. At 17th level, when you start your turn in dim light or darkness, you become wreathed in shadow via... or become wreathed in shadow via your Slayer in Shadows feature, you gain 2d4 temporary hit points. So, at minimum, 2, at maximum, 8. And you might be saying to yourself, wow, that doesn't seem like a lot at 17th level. You've got to remember, though, if you can find a patch of just dim light, just under a tree, you know, there's a shadow there, that's dim light. You're going to start every single turn of that combat with an extra 2 to 8 temporary hit points. That's going to add up quite a lot over a course of combat. And then we've got what I like to do here, a little bonus magic item at the end. I've done this with every single subclass I've got up on there. If you want to read it for yourself, go ahead, but I won't be covering it here. It's a very cool weapon, especially if you like curses. But yeah, that will just about do it here. Again, if you want to download a copy of this, I think you know what I'm going to say, it's on the Patreon. Check it out. Please. It's only $1. And you get all the previous stuff and future stuff. But with that, I will leave you to your trick-or-treating, or if you're watching this later in the year, you just stumbled across this video, I don't know, go out and buy a candy bar or something. Maybe I should have said that in the beginning of the video. Oh well, video's over. Anyway, I of course have been the Awesome Soul, and I will see you next time. Thank you so much for watching.